Vivek's Wealth and Insurance Solutions, together with Secure 65 Health Plans where seniors thrive, presents our host, Alicia Elcano and Monet Swan. Our special guest is Cynthia Sue Larson, best-selling author and life coach. Books include Quantum Jumps, Reality Shifts, High Energy Money, and The Mandela Effect and Its Society. Favorite question in any situations is, how good can it get? Well, who doesn't want to hear about that right now? I know I do. She also has received a BA degree in physics from UC Berkeley and an MBA degree from San Francisco State University. She helps people set and achieve extraordinary goals and optimal alignment with their core strengths. Our special guest is Cynthia Sue Larson. Welcome. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. Look at her, you guys. Does she just not sparkle when she comes on? The smile, the excitement. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. I'm so glad to be with you today, both of you.
We are going to change lives today, Cynthia. Well, if they'll let us. Right?
Do our best.
Yeah, we can't do something they don't want, but together we're going to give them something to think about. Remember that song? Right. Let's give them something to think about. We're going to give them something to think about. So again, welcome to today's episode where we're diving into the fascinating intersection of science and spirituality with our esteemed guest, Cynthia Sue Larson. Cynthia is a best-selling author, researcher, and speaker, renowned for her ability to merge cutting-edge physics with profound spiritual insight. Her work explores how concepts from quantum physics relate to human experience, particularly through phenomena like the Mandela Effect and parallel universes. Today, we're going to touch on her new book, Mandela Effect and Its Society. Like society, community, you guys, right? Okay. So let's do a proper introduction. Alicia, take it away.
Thank you, Monet. Thank you, Cynthia, for being here with us today. Everyone, Cynthia Sue Larson is the best-selling author of transformative works such as The Mandela Effect and Its Society, Quantum Jumps, Reality Shifts, and High Energy Money. With a physics degree from UC Berkeley, an MBA, a Doctor of Divinity, and a second-degree black belt, she brings a unique blend of science, spirituality, and strength to her insights. Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Alicia and Monet. I'm so happy to be with you today. I love talking about these topics. So it's my pleasure.
Well, we just are so, it's just unbelievable. You know, it's from spirituality till I chop off your head with my black belt. You need to be in another parallel universe because now all this kind of stuff, I think it's getting people emotional enough to get back in the game. They got to get back in the game. They can't just say, oh, let the world take care of me, because as you can see, we're not taking care of the world. So You can't expect something to come back.
Well, I think a lot of people are noticing in the last several years that we can't expect our institutions or sometimes even our families to take care of us the way we thought they would be. Things have been very different. And without getting into all of the detail, we know it's been different. Those of us who've lived through it. It's been shocking. Exactly. It's been a wake-up call. But I think one thing that we can take away from it is that what we show up and what we bring to it with our attitude, with our intentionality, with our perspective, it changes our experience of reality completely. And we can see it as we get older. We can look around and you can see it on people's faces. It's something that showed up in a children's book that I read once. I think it was Roald Dahl, a British author, and he was showing that you can see even in the face of someone who's older, maybe she's in her 70s or 80s, but there's kindness on her face, and she's got a beauty that nobody can take from her because it's coming from her heart, coming from within. So that's something we can see. And then we know, everybody knows somebody who's gone a little bit sour and they seem very negative. And it's not so surprising when they have so much to complain about because they don't seem to be looking for the good things. And anyway, then so obviously we'd rather be with people that have a similar worldview to our own. You know, birds of a feather tend to flock together. So when I look at the physics of all this and like what's going on with this, I've been delving into this for more than 25 years now, researching this mind-matter interaction, which is quite real. I'm not going to get too technical today, but I can assure you that when you hear about things like the placebo effect, for example,
Yeah,
that has a scientific basis. It's so scientific that there's now it's an established procedure for having something that scientific treatments are compared against. So it would be the placebo, which comes from the Latin "I shall please," and originally, back in I think World War II, when the medical field doctors ran out of the correct medication, they didn't have anything to give for pain. They just needed something for the pain when these soldiers are injured. And so what they came up with was, I'm just going to give them an injection of something. It'll be salt water, saline solution.
right.
Won't harm them, but there's no reason it should help them. But just the fact that the patient was receiving the administration of care from someone wearing the white coat who is a doctor and really does wish for them to feel like less pain and is actually doing something, then that placebo effect was quite powerful right from the start. It's since that time, since the 1940s, this placebo has been built into all of our medical tests. If you're doing something, they want to know, how does this hold up against the placebo? And what's interesting for me is the placebo effect itself has been gaining strength like over the decades. It's not just like a 20% positive, or it was as much as 30% back in the day when it was first named. But now it's off the hook, off the charts. If you give it a placebo to someone like me, I'll be like, yeah. And even if you know it's a placebo, even if you say it's not double blind, we told Cynthia it's a placebo. I'm like, thank you. Excellent. This is really going to help. So there's a power to that, which is kind of inexplicable according to our typical previous assumptions about reality and the way things work. It doesn't make sense for a saline solution or something that does nothing obvious, maybe a sugar pill or salt solution.
Right.
How could that be?
Let me ask you this, because of your divinity and spirituality.
Yes.
Do you think that when you go to church, I was raised Catholic, right? And you'd go and you'd get the holy water, and you believe the holy water was going to do whatever you said the priest said that was going to do for you. You put this on and you say whatever you're going to do, genuflex, and you're good, right? Do you think that medicine may have gotten the idea from spiritual practices on the placebo?
It's possible. I think those were desperate field officers. I don't think they were the first ones that ever used the placebo, but they were the first group of individuals to do so who were formally recognized in our Western culture. So probably there's some basis for that. I think you're right. And I think it's really, for those of us who are spiritual, there's an advantage in having that kind of faith, that you have an unshakable, impermeable, direct connection to the absolute, whatever you want to call that. Different religions have different names. And personally, I feel like we can all agree to just have our own unique individual connection. That's super important. And if people feel that, then don't let anyone take that from you, no matter what, because that's kind of your lifeline in a way. And so some people are very religious and they believe in their particular religion. That's important to them. And for people that have a direct connection already or in some other way, that's very important too, because it gives people faith. It gives them, and it's more than faith, that there's an energy to it, actually, that some of us can actually feel. It's palpable.
Yeah.
So energy healers that work with various modalities will tell you like, oh, I can feel this energy. And it's usually, if you do tests on that sort of thing, you can discern that something has happened. I participated in such a scientific study with the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
Yes, tell them about that. That is super interesting.
Yeah, I've been a participant in a couple of their studies. The first time it was an intentional chocolate experiment. I thought, I get to get free chocolate, and sure, like, let's do it. So there were some procedures, to keep it in the proper format of an experiment. So what I was doing is describing various factors, like how I was feeling and personality. So they had all the baseline for that. And then my participation involved taking a small tablet of chocolate, which may or may not have had some positive intentions conferred to it by some Tibetan Buddhist monks.
Okay.
And I could actually feel like this is better than regular chocolate. And at the end of the experiment, I got to say, did I think it was or wasn't? And I said, oh yeah, that definitely was, because it's more than I love chocolate, but this
I was going to say, could you get more? I loved it. I need a little bit more just to make sure I'm correct.
I can now create my own. You know, I know that works. And so if you do prayer and you know that works, well, of course, then you would want to bless your home, your food, your family. You want to bring that prayer element of good intentions to everything, so that every food you take, whether it's medicine, whether you think it's going to help you or not, it benefits you to believe it will help you. Absolutely. Even no matter what people tell you, no matter, because this has been a contentious time these last few years. So I'm not going to get real political and say anything.
Look, to say the least. And we've got a few more years to look at.
Oh, yes.
We're just getting started on contention. But let me ask you this. Based on your background, how did all this come together where you put the science with the spirituality? Did something major happen? Because I know your background is very diverse, but what brought all of them, converged all of them together to move forward?
I think it's me just being myself, to be honest. Because when I was quite small, in my family, my father was very scientific, loved mathematics. He impressed upon us math as the prince of the sciences, and really, you could feel he dearly, dearly wished for my sister and myself to study the sciences. Okay. So we did. I dove into physics. My sister dove into biology, and we did our best to be scientists that way. But honestly, me being me, I've always been very energy aware, very keen, able to see things other people don't necessarily see, like energies, like angels, like spirits. To have such an ability is to feel a bit freaky when you're also doing your best to study science and talk and share things that everybody else can see. So you're not talking about some wacky stuff that sounds like you're on a DMT trip. I don't need the DMT. It's like, oh, I can already sense that stuff.
So most people would like to be like you. Most of them are going to the DMTs. They're going to everything. They're like, how can I be like Cynthia? I want to experience the colors, the people, the energy. But I do think, one thing we've learned is it starts within, right? Yes. If it starts within to create without, then what are you doing to your body when you put so many false things in there that aren't going to help? If you can really believe in creating it, I would think that would open the door to the quantum mechanics for you and the parallel universes, because what's in the mind can go on forever. So why couldn't you create whatever you wanted?
Children, yeah, exactly. Young children have this already. We tend to drive it out of our children through the schooling system and just through life in general, just impressing upon them that they need to be part of the collective consciousness and think the way that everyone else is thinking. The work that I've been sharing with the world is very different. It's more forward reaching. My intention is that the books I write will be good for the next several decades. So I'm thinking forward, like, is this book still going to stand the test of time 30 years from now, knowing what I know about how physics is changing? And there are going to be some big changes this year. Yeah. Just because a lot of the science that's been long concealed will be coming out. But even so, I still feel strongly that the ideas that I'm sharing, that we can make a quantum jump. We can literally recognize, like with a placebo effect, I'm getting a saline shot. You can tell me, Cynthia, like, yep, it's saline. I'm like, okay, thank you. Hey, the pain is going away. Thank you. Because you might say, why? What is that? Well, because there's some care involved, because it was administered by someone that I believe that was their function, to improve my health. And so I'm sharing and participating in that expectation. And you might wonder, well, how on earth could that change anything? And I'm not going to get too technical with the physics, but there's the Nobel Prize was awarded to someone that's showing that there is no such thing as, local reality. So if local reality is not as real as we think it is, then what the heck is it? Is this all a dream? Is it a simulation? Yes, I think
that's what's important, because when we talk to our seniors and they complain about body aches and I can't control this, and they're so accustomed to calling up the white coat and saying, I need this, this, and this. And of course, Big Pharma, not being political, is right there to help. Ta-da! I've got everything that you need. And then you realize you're actually changing your body from healing itself I love those aspects that you go into with regarding your mind, because I know I do it a little bit just on trying to lose weight. I'm losing weight. But you've got to get to the point where belief has to play a part in this, in everything. And unfortunately, the collective has been given a lot of information that's not quite accurate. And so they're lost. And at this point, they don't know who to believe, which is why we said we're bringing Cynthia on, because they need to understand parallel universe. They need to understand the Mandela effect, exactly what that means.
Yes.
All of those play a huge role in understanding life from a realistic perspective, not what they've created, but what does that really tell us? When you got into the Mandela effect, how did that change your life? What did you see that you never saw before?
Well, I'm a lifelong experiencer of that particular phenomenon. So long before there was the term Mandela effect, I was experiencing it in the form of, at first, personal changes. I should define the term. Let's back up a minute. What is the Mandela effect? What is that? Is it a mandala? Not exactly. No. So it's not that beautiful artistic representation of form with something in the center and then things spreading out beautifully around it. That's a mandala. I'm talking about Mandela, as in Nelson Mandela, who many of us remember was a beloved leader in South Africa. We also remember he was locked up, incarcerated, in jail for a number of years. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Some of us remember. Okay, yeah, you're. Okay, some of us remember that he actually died while he was still incarcerated. And then his wife, Winnie, I don't know if you saw all the details. It was a mess.
Loggerhead.
It was awful. Money, I know. And it was like, what? Are you serious? This is how his legacy will be remembered? It broke my heart. And a lot of us, now I'm talking about a reality that apparently has never happened, blessedly, like, hallelujah.
He would never be president if he was dead.
Right. So the reality that he actually did somehow make it to become president, which is so amazing. A man of such stature, such gentleness, such kindness and brilliance. In fact, I use a lot of his quotes in my book about the Mandela effect and its society, because I'd like to share the vision that he has, which is so beautiful in many ways, many facets. No human's perfect. I just think he was a good choice for someone to be dead and then alive again. Now, there are many people have been dead and alive again, to the point that it's kind of a joke. Like Mark Twain was saying, the rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated, or something to that effect. And we think, like, yes.
But the cognitive dissonance that's happened, it makes people wonder, especially if you're a senior, is that Alzheimer's? I don't think am I getting dementia? No. Community, listen to Cynthia, because there are things that explain some of the things that you doubt. And so this is why it's important. And explain to them why you got into the Mandela, since you were already doing it. Were you already kind of thinking something is weird going on?
Yes, I'd already been on the Art Bell show. For those of us who remember Coast to Coast, he's a late night radio guy with an amazing voice, talking about metaphysics, the paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, whatever. And so I talked with him, not on that show, but Midnight in the Desert, which was a subsequent show that he came out with later. So it was in the early 2000s, and I'm talking to him about the Mandela effect. And he was wondering, would I call, when someone's dead and then alive again, would I call that the Mandela effect? And at the time, I was calling it reality shifts. Okay. But the phrase Mandela effect really caught hold, because around the year 2009, 2010, when Fiona Broome popularized the term, people were ready for this, because so many people remembered quite clearly the case of Nelson Mandela, for example, and many others, lots of other people having been dead, and now they're alive again. And we can't all be getting Alzheimer's at all these different ages. I mean, in your 30s is too young for Alzheimer's. It should be, hopefully.
Hopefully. So do you think it is generational? Because I would say people my age and older remember different things than people that are Alicia's age. We've talked off camera, and she's like, I don't remember that. And from things like Jiffy, Jiff, Stofers.
Generations will have different Mandela effects. You are correct. So like Generation Z, those are the, or whatever they call themselves, the new ones right now, they're not going to be familiar with the things I'm talking about. No. And if I mention Jane Goodall and she's alive again, they'll be like, who cares? Why? What? She's old. You got confused. Like, I did not get confused.
But Cynthia, I remember going up into the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, wow.
When I saw that saying that it was closed, no, it wasn't.
Right.
I went there with my class. So no, I remember, and I remember,
what year was that roughly, or do you know when?
And I'm trying to remember
because
I had gone to different schools, but I just remember I had gone to Chicago first to look at all the museums with my family.
Nice.
And then we went to New York because I was like, oh, that's a big deal. And so when I was doing my research and it said that there was a bomb or explosion, something to that effect.
Yeah, the Black Tom explosion.
I've never heard of that. I mean, it's not in any history book that I've ever read.
That was new for me too. It's like, what Black Tom explosion? I didn't know that the war had made it onto mainland America, that we had like a bomb go off and we had this kind of that was shocking. Like, how did this not make it into my history books? So these are examples of the Mandela effect that I include as examples. There are so many more with food, like the Haas avocado. I remember Haas, Haas.
Well, that's the way it sounds. How could it now be a Haas?
Yeah, right. That's just not. It's not as elegant sounding.
It's definitely not. I don't want any Haas. All right, keep your Haas. But on that note, I'm going to stop for a second because the marketing team has some wonderful little examples of Mandela effect.
Oh, good.
Play one. So when you're talking to us older folks, we're like, what are you talking about? Of course he died.
Right. Well, a lot of us do remember it. Some people were in classrooms when their teacher talked about it, used it as a learning moment, a teaching opportunity. Yeah. And now there's no such teaching opportunity. How could that memory be true? How could they have been in class learning about that when that never happened, because he did not die when he was in prison? And so the whole scuffle that you remember with Winnie, and it was like, oh, please.
It was ugly.
But now that never happened because he didn't die when he was incarcerated.
So does that bring in the parallel universes? And then what happens to one universe and the other? How do they converge? And does that mean that we're in the Matrix? And oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah, it does pretty much go straight into these ideas. And in my book, The Mandela Effect and Its Society, I explore a bunch of different possible explanations. What's going on? From a physics standpoint, the idea of the parallel realities is a strong one, because that's the way that we experience the world. Like with the placebo example, I'm feeling pain and I know it's a placebo. The doctor's giving me a salt water shot and I'm like, oh, thank you. And I allow myself to receive my direct feeling of that reality where I no longer have the pain. So I'm choosing a reality. Like, is this same thing as if I wake up in the morning and I had a terrible night's sleep, the dog next door was barking, a child was crying, gunfire was going, whatever, crazy noises, helicopters. I could not sleep a wink. So I wake up in the morning. What do? I know about the placebo effect. I tell myself, you got the best possible night's sleep last night, even though it's like, ha, ha, ha. Like, no, let's just review that again. You, Cynthia, got the best night's sleep. People that do that actually perform better on tests of attention and focus and all of the mental acuity tests. After all that they're doing, the only difference is telling themselves that. And you might say, but then you're lying to yourself. And I'm saying, no, you're steering your reality. Just like you grab the steering wheel and you're going to steer into a reality that's the optimal one for you. How good can it get? You're going to choose that, even when it looks like there's no way out and it's the dead end and the worst thing ever is happening. I've been there. I do walk this talk. So I'm not just saying empty words here.
Well, and I think it's always a choice that people don't understand. You have a choice to feel bad or to feel good.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It may take you a little time to get there. But we know if you can do that individually, then we can do that collectively.
Yes.
This is what we talked about a little bit off camera about transcendental meditation and a group of monks that were able to drop the baseline of homicide 21% over a 4-year period. So my call to you seniors, when you're sitting in the dining room at your assisted care, why don't we spend a little time on meditation, on what we'd like to see, what we'd like to experience, because there is scientific evidence that it does work, right?
This is something we can do collectively too, for sure. And there are ongoing experiments in this direction. There are lots of things happening all the time associated with Gaia, who's got the TV shows, of course. And so Lynn McTaggart, she's been doing some wonderful work in that regard. I think she's doing another really big group intentional experiment, but it's also, we're expecting success. So she'll be doing that, I think, at the Gaia Studios in Boulder, Colorado this year.
Cynthia, I think we have to do one too.
Yeah, we should do one.
Yeah. And just do it for seniors. Everybody over 60, sign up. Let's see if we can change the atmosphere, as they say.
And something I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's something wonderful that we can do related to this quantum jumping and parallel realities that all of us can do to improve our lives. And also, if we do it together, the lives of all of us. And that would be, it's just as simple as that idea when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, I had a good night's sleep. This one is just to pay attention to how you envision, how you think about the elderly. And I know we're already seniors, but or either approaching it, or most of the audience listening is. But it's a really good thing to do. And you might think, why does it matter? I'll tell you why it matters. They've done experiments on this, and people who have very positive views of, I'll just name a great role model that I think is great, like Betty White. She was a comedian. Yes.
Everybody loved her.
And the older she got, it's like how much more creative can a person get? Like how much more radiant, how much more funny is she got? It seemed like she got better as she got older. Or she wasn't getting worse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that. So if you're thinking like, how do I do this? I can't picture that. Yes, you can. And maybe you don't like Betty White, so pick someone else. Pick someone you like.
Right.
And just imagine that this is going to be a positive bias. So what I'm suggesting is most of us, without even noticing that it ever happened, somehow we've unfortunately picked up a negative bias about aging.
Yeah.
And that's going to have a direct effect on our health. The scientific study I'm mentioning that's in my book, Quantum Jumps, shows that people who had the positive bias instead of the negative bias had a much better, like a 44% better response to recovering from disability. So this was specifically a study on, they fell down, they got injured. How quickly do they heal? Well, the ones that heal 44% faster are definitely the ones who have that positive bias toward aging. They just figure like, I'm going to get better. And they do.
See, but say that again, because I think we have doctors giving people, you've got 6 months to live.
Yeah.
Stop it. I don't think they should ever be allowed to do that.
Right.
Because you don't know. They don't know. If they decide they want to check out, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah,
but give them the opportunity to make the decision. Don't implant this solution that you've got a specific amount of time.
And it helps to know why they're doing it. In America, that's for legal reasons usually. So if you know, like, they're just saying that for legal reasons, now I'm going to ignore that. I went to a doctor when my younger daughter had a broken leg. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And what happened is that they showed me the x-ray and it looked terrible. The doctor was telling me privately in the x-ray viewing room, he said, view this, it looks like an explosion went off, her bone is shattered, this is never going to heal properly. And the first thing I said was, did you say this to my daughter? And he said, no. I said, do not ever say that to my daughter. Yeah. It's like, because right off the bat, it's like, well, this is ridiculous. I know it looks like a bone exploded. I'm looking at the picture of it. But you know what? That's not going to be the way that one leg is stunted and he was projecting that thered be a bump there, that the bone would heal in a large bulbous mass. That's not necessary. So whenever you hear a doctor say something, when I heard my doctor say it to me, I'm a mother and I became a real mama bear in that moment. Like, how dare you? Do not curse my daughter. Anyway, so I go back to her and I'm just thinking, I'm making a mental plan already. Like, well, now I know what we're going to do. So every night when she went to bed, I just put my hands around her leg where it was injured. And then I'd treat the other leg too, because they're both good legs and one's in a cast, one's not. You can do the same thing when a doctor says something to you. And her legs are fine. She grew up fine. There was no stunting and no bumpy bulbous mass. So we don't need to.
People don't know the power. I mean, we have given our power away.
Right.
And then when things don't work, then we want to blame somebody else. And it's like, just go back and get your power.
Yes.
You don't need an invitation. You start internally.
Yes.
And so all of these different things that you're showing us gives us the ability to say, I'm going to take control over my life. And I am going to do things the way I want to see, instead of following the path of lack or sickness or disease, whatever it is. And so what you're telling people is that they can change what they thought was their destiny to what they would like for it to be. But I think they need to understand the power is within. And whether you're using biblical texts, the kingdom of God is within, or whatever it is, they have been saying the same things in different religions, different ways for eons.
One thing I notice about all these paths to the absolute, the ultimate, the creator, the oneness, the source, is that you are safe and you are loved. Yeah. And if there's one thing that I want people listening today to know, that is true. You are safe and you are loved. And I'm telling you, I love you. You're safe in my vision of your future. I need everybody to be our best. I need that, because it doesn't make any sense for us to be living any other way than that. That's what brings us into our own divinity, our own sovereignty, and our own true ability to recognize what you're talking about, that we've got this amazing power within, and it's directly connected. People, maybe they don't want to abuse it, of course. I don't either. But it's directly connected to all of us, and to that absolute oneness that unites us all. And I think that transcends all religions. So even if someone says, because some people are projecting there may be some trouble with our religions this year and the next years, and that may be so. But even if that happens, I know that I'm not going to let go of my connection to that absolute, because I directly experience it when I slow my thoughts down to a stop, go into that silence, and then I can feel, when I stay in there like 20 minutes, I'll feel that safety, and I'll feel that love that I'm assuring you that we each have. It's your birthright. It's my birthright. And it's who we really are. And that connects us.
Don't you also say those who do the meditation, they are the ones that see the synchronicities. They are the ones that see the parallel. They're the ones that, I guess, embrace this whole effect a lot easier than others, because they've learned really to go within. Kind of elaborate on how that works.
Yeah, there's a personality type that does tend to experience more synchronicities, more meaningful coincidences, more Mandela effects, where they might notice, like, didn't the heart used to be on the left? And I remember that, like, now it's in the center. What? Stuff like that.
Or the kidney. Let's talk about the kidney.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the kidneys. If you put your hands where your kidneys used to be, or where you think they are, I'm putting my hands on my lower back. Like if I've climbed a big hill, a lot of stairs, I'm like, oh, just got to rest. I put my hands back where my kidneys used to be, but they're not there now. No. They've never been there, apparently. They have moved up under the relative safety of the rib cage.
But we remember the kidney punches from the boxers. We remember all that. So how come all of a sudden it's safe under the ribs?
Right. Yeah, these are good questions. To me, I think these are indicators that we get a little bit of evidence, like, okay, you're not just misremembering it. You don't all have Alzheimer's together the same exact way. It looks like there actually are different realities that you guys are dreaming together and experiencing in groups of collective consciousness together. And that to me looks like what is happening, that we are dreaming this. This is a waking dream, this so-called world of stuff, physical things that we can measure. All the measurables are the stuff of the dream. Everything's just inverted. And to me, the real reality is that which lies, the energy behind it, the pure consciousness.
Now that you said that, you've got to talk about the dinosaur. I'm sorry. The funniest thing I had ever. It's funny to talk about the dinosaur and the people, because it explains consciousness and collective.
Yes, that's a great example. So there's a town, I think is it Bolton, if I'm remembering correctly, in England.
It's in England.
Yeah, it's in England. And people there, they were, getting to the age where they're parents and grandparents now. And they're noticing the museum. They're going there with their child or their grandchild. And they're just starting to get really bothered by the fact that the dinosaur that used to be prominently displayed at the front of the natural history part of the museum, it has been gone for a long time. And whatever the heck they've been doing with it, it's time to bring it back. Gosh darn it. So they started, doing an investigation. Like, what happened to the dinosaur? Like, where is it gone? Are they done repairing it or whatever they were doing? Bring it back, because I want to share this with my children and my grandchildren. And they came to find out, this is interesting, because there was a big kerfluffle in the city council. Well, there was some discussion, animated discussion, shall we say, between the townspeople that were adamantly convinced that this dinosaur existed, and someone took off with their dinosaur. Where has it gone? We need answers. And then the other half of the town is like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's never been a dinosaur. And then the ones insisting there was said, that's because it's been gone so long. You've just forgotten about it. It's getting ridiculous. Bring it back. Whatever the heck you're doing, it shouldn't take this long. This is like a geological age of repair. So,
right.
Anyway, so come to find out, as the investigation continued, there was no evidence that such a dinosaur did in fact exist. What's interesting is the townspeople that remembered it, they agreed completely on what it looked like, where it was placed. And so they said, you know what, we're going to get that dinosaur back, the one that should be here, because half of the town remembers it. So we're just going to go purchase one and put it in the place where it's always been, as far as many of us remember.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a fun example. As you said, it really does illustrate the idea that some people were so convinced, and they shared such a shared memory. Where would they have gotten that from? Like, where on earth? It's not like you can say, they all got confused because of what? Why would they all be confused identically to remember the same thing? So and that's the Mandela effect right there.
So yeah, absolutely. Net, give us another example of the Mandela effect so people can see.
Yeah, what do you remember?
It was like a box of chocolates.
That one sounds wrong to me. But that's the one you like? I don't like that one.
No.
Mom always told me life is like a box of chocolates. That's what I remember.
It's present tense. It's like it, because that's what's going on right now.
Right.
So when you think about it, I know people that I've talked to, they've said, well, maybe the original script had that. Maybe they're going back to that. Or in some conversations, did advertising get involved and change, like Jif and Jiffy and Haas and Haas?
It sounds funny when you say that. Who on earth would advertise an avocado differently and come up with a worse name? That sounds so bad. Like no, this is the wrong direction.
Nobody's going to the store and asking for that. Where are those Haas avocados? We're not asking for that.
No.
We don't know where that's coming from. But it's even the movie Field of Dreams.
Yes. If you build it, what do you remember? If you build it,
they will come.
Yes. I remember that too. And now I guess that's still in the movie in some small way, but usually it's like, if you build it, he will come. But then who is he?
And why? Why am I doing this for one person?
Exactly.
Why am I building this just for John?
Yeah.
Maybe John's family,
right?
Maybe John's community,
right? And some of these get very disturbing. These are funny ones from the movies, and like, who cares? It doesn't matter. But when you get into the Bible changes, it can really upset some people.
Oh, I haven't seen. Tell us about it. I don't know any of those.
Okay, well, one of them is there's an animal that shall lie down with the lamb, right?
Yeah.
And a little child shall leave them. Yeah, this is in Isaiah. So what do you remember?
I thought it was all animals will lie down with the lamb or the sheep or something. How does it go? I may not remember this, but I'm just telling you.
Okay, well, if we did it like the slides we've just done, one would be the lion shall lay down with the lamb.
Yes.
And the other one is the wolf shall lay down with the lamb.
No, I've never heard the wolf.
And it's always been the wolf now.
No, it was always the lion. Now that I do remember.
See?
It is always, nobody talks about a wolf. The lion was the king of so you have the biggest animal lying down with the child.
I know. And it's so beautiful. And I've seen art depictions, sculptures, stained glass windows of the lion and the lamb, but the lion's not there anymore in the Bible. It's always been the wolf.
No. Alicia, do you remember the wolf? I don't remember the wolf.
No, but it's very interesting. What I would like to ask Cynthia is, how did you get involved with the Mandela community?
Yes. Well, I recognized early on, like when Art Beld asked me, would you call this the Mandela effect? And I'm thinking, personally, no, I would not call it that. But then I realized, oh, this is a tidal wave. This is coming along regardless what I would call it. I would call it collective alternate memory, because that's more like what's really happening.
It encompasses everything.
Yeah. It's an alternate memory. It's not mistaken. It's not false. If you look up what is a Mandela effect, there are websites that will claim it's a false memory. That's a real jump to a conclusion right there.
Yeah.
Like, on what authority do they have that it's a false memory? What's the proof of that? That's a pretty big claim. It's an easy out. Yeah. It's like, let's not think about this. Let's call it a false memory.
Because we can't go any deeper. But isn't that, and I'm not putting down science because I think science is doing a lot, but isn't that kind of what happens when we don't know? I mean, my science books back in the 60s and 70s do not look at like anything that's out now. The things that we were saying, what's this atom is the smallest you can go, and all these different things. But we see so many times that there's pushback from a community who has made a name based on things that are now no longer true.
There are little fiefdoms in science. Science, it sort of moves and fits and starts. And then there are little power centers that develop when there's an idea. And they, let's face it, they're making money from it, and it's their honor and their prestige and their respect. And so when they're kind of trying their best to hold on to that, it's not in their best interest personally, unless they're really dedicated to the truth, and which very few people. They're people. People are people.
They start out that way.
They
I think
start out.
They realize the politics involved, and hey, I need tenure.
Yeah. So at some point they kind of, and also it's the way our minds work. I think it's hard sometimes to wrap your mind around something so nebulous. As there's no such thing as local reality. Like, what on earth does that mean? But that's where we are. That was the Nobel Prize for science just a couple of years ago. And we're getting lots of other strange results out of science that are indicating that is true. There is no such thing as local reality. And mind and matter do interact.
Is that part of the quantum entanglement? Because I know that a little bit about Einstein talking about spooky.
Yeah.
What is it?
Action at a distance.
Action at a distance.
That's entanglement, and it's the basis and the methodology, the mechanism by which our quantum computers will be operating. They'll be utilizing that and several other quantum properties in order to function properly, and that's part of it. They'll be benefiting from these possible imaginary alternate realities when they run all these different, simulations as to solve a problem. They can quickly run it through all these different realities, get the answer back. And that's not something our classical computers can do, but it's something our brains are doing. It's something nature is doing. And that's what my books are showing, is that we've got everything inside of us already, that we're building the technology a little bit later, but we don't need to worship that technology. I would advise against it. Do not do that. Everything that you need is in us. We already have it. And we can learn from what we're building and recognize this is cool. We're working with quantum entanglement with spooky action at a distance. One particle has spin down and one has spin up. And we know that if we measure this one and it's this way, we know what happened with the other one, even if they're miles apart. And so that's the entanglement concept and the spooky action at a distance. It's instant. It's not like the speed of light is required and you must factor in how many light years apart are these two. There's no light years. There's no distance. It's instant across the entire cosmos. And this is a big cosmos.
Oh, yeah. So you started out in physics and you got the classic, right? The quantum physics, or is that the best way to describe it? Kind of not really challenges. Well, I guess challenges the classics because one is more material and the other one is more unknown. Or how would you say that better so people understand the difference between what classic physics is?
Yeah. Classical physics is just large physics. So it's kind of like the physics of like relativistic physics has to do with the sun and the earth and the galaxies and the universe. And that's relativity, Einstein's relativity, and those little gravity curves that you see around the sun and planets. That's relativistic physics. Newtonian physics has to do with an apple falling from a tree and the speed at which it falls, all the forces involved. Often there are problems involving a frictionless inclined plane and rolling something down. That's your basic Newtonian physics. And then the quantum physics would be the physics of the quanta, which is a word that Max Planck came up with to describe the very smallest possible building block of everything that reality is made of. And that's what it was supposed to be. What actually happened when they're studying the smallest so-called building block is that they found out this little particle, quite a bit of the time, does not behave at all like a particle. It acts like it's a wave, just with nothing that you can measure. And there's all kinds of uncertainty involved. And it's just waving along, doing that wave-like wave function thing. And that was the beginning of the weirdness. And then it just got weirder and weirder. So involving things like a future decision can affect the past. That's definitely part of quantum physics. An observation itself can change what happens. Like what? Two observers.
That the double slit experiment? Is that how all that came to play?
The double slit experiment is the way to test a hypothesis. So an experiment in science, yes, it gives you the ability, the ways and means. Yeah, you can devise an experiment to investigate how does a quantum particle, like such as a photon or an electron, how does that behave? And so they devised the double slit experiment to test and find out, is that quantum particle, that very smallest particle, turns out there are smaller aspects of a quantum particle, but let's just stick with that. With the double slit experiment, they fired off one particle, one photon at a time through two slits. And as long as the observational device is in one of the slits, then the pattern that shows up on the screen looks like a little paintball went through, kind of like splat, and you get a little splat pattern. If you do not put a measuring device in one of the two slits, so you don't know which one it went through, and instead you're just looking at the screen, invariably, instead of getting the paintball splat pattern, like someone throwing paintballs through these two doorways, instead of that, you get something that looks like two people throwing two pebbles in a pond, and all the diffraction pattern emerges of constructive and destructive interference. So it's a wave pattern. And that's one photon at a time interfering with itself. So it was like so impossible that the levels of impossibility of the whole thing were mind-blowing for the physicists observing this whole thing. Like to wrap your mind around what just happened here is like, what? So that's quantum physics. It's intrinsically rather extraordinary. And it's the physics of the very small. But that's the physics of nature. That is what helps birds navigate when they know how to fly south for the winter. They're using quantum properties and quantum capabilities. When we look at photosynthesis and how do we get oxygen, how do plants store energy in their leaves? How do they function so they can give us the oxygen that we need? They're doing it with a quantum random walk.
So is quantum, is it the same thing as consciousness? I mean, it seems like they almost kind of.
Well, we see consciousness at work, definitely, when we look at quantum physics. Like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Suddenly the observer matters. Never before did the observer matter so much. Previously, with Newtonian and relativistic physics at the regular household level and cosmic scale, we didn't have to worry if there's such a thing as an objective observer. We just assumed, of course, there's an objective of, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. But with physics in the quantum realm, the observer suddenly plays a key central role. Like, where do you put that observational device in the two slits? That's observation. And why does that matter so much?
Right.
So it starts getting kind of strange, and it just gets weirder and weirder the more you look at that stuff. So there's a definite connection with the consciousness and the quantum physics. You can't.
So does that take us into the metaverse? Is that why we're talking about the consciousness and what we observe? And if there's parallel universes, that means there could be hundreds of millions of different possibilities out there, but we're observing only one. And so that's what we get.
Many of us are observing more than one. I think humans are set up we have the ability to do what we're seeing quantum computers do. Now we're noticing, hey, a quantum computer, it's almost as if it's imagining all these other realities and going into these other realities in its imagination or its dream. What do humans do? We imagine, we dream. And then it comes back with the answer. What do we do when we have that aha moment? And you say, like, where did you get that idea, Einstein? Or, Edison, where'd you come up with that idea? And it's like, I don't know. I was just sort of meditating on it, kind of imagining, going into these parallel realities, coming back with that answer. So we're doing this all the time. We humans are doing this.
I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around it, right, Alicia? When you think about it and you think about all the possibilities, there is no reason for anybody to be down. There's just, you need to sit home and get in a squatting position or whatever and just think, I need possibilities. At least some possibilities right now.
And on that note, I would like to ask Cynthia. Cynthia, tell us a little bit more about quantum jumps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, quantum jumps, that's a technical term, and some people who are really rigid with, you must use these terms exactly as they were created. Okay. It was created to show that there would be a state change in the energy level of, for example, an electron moving from one energy level to another. And in the 1980s, humans could see with their naked eye this little quantum jump where an electron jumped. In other words, it instantly teleported with a little flash of light from one energy level to another. So that's exactly the first meaning of that term. I have now, I am myself and many others are now utilizing the same term in a very metaphysical way, where we're looking at just as if you can jump from one energy level to another. You can wake up in the morning and say, that was the best night of sleep I had in my life. I know you may laugh at first, like that was the worst night. And then wait a minute, I just heard something recently on a podcast. What was it? Oh, right. I'm going to try this thing out. This was the best night's sleep I ever got. And then instead of all the aches and pains and all the things you're expecting, you are jumping into, you're changing the reality, the energy level, the focus, everything, so that you're literally moving into another reality. It's very much like this one, but now there's no headache, or if there was, it starts clearing up. Like, hey, I feel pretty good. Like my eyes feel pretty good. I feel sharp. Hey, it sounds stupid to say that was the best night of sleep ever, because I know it wasn't, but I'm going to keep saying it anyway because it seems to be working. And so this is acting as if it's taking the energy of that moment when you make that choice. And I've done this with big things too. I had long haul COVID, hundreds of symptoms. I felt like I might be dying. It was I'm not going to bore you with how bad it was, but I was 30 years older overnight. Felt like I was in my 90s, just falling down, couldn't stay awake. I was awake just like 8 or 10 hours a day. Anyway, but never mind all that. In the thick of it, I do walk my talk, and I decided, well, how good can it get? Because that's my favorite question to ask our participatory universe. We're always talking with it. You might think, who's there? Oh, the collective consciousness and that absolute consciousness is there. So even if you're an atheist and like, I don't believe in God, that's okay. There's still, you can test this for yourself. Just everything that you're thinking, it's going to be reflected back to you. And this is a concept I'd like to credit John Archibald Wheeler, the physicist, who talks about the participatory universe. He says, when you ask nature a question, nature answers. Absolutely. So then my favorite question, therefore, is going to be the question that brings the optimal results. My favorite question is, how good can it get? That is the question I was asking when I had long haul COVID. And it did go on for a while. It took me about 1.5 years to find my way out of it. And then I've been repairing damage from it ever since. But the point is, it's possible to make a comeback even from the dark night of the soul. And it's possible to choose positivity even when you're facing a doctor who says to you, like, this leg will never heal properly. I'm laughing. They say these things because they have reasons to do it, legal reasons. We do not have to take that as our truth. And it's better if you keep asking, how good can it get? Even if you can't quite take the full jump yet, like that's impossible. Like maybe if it's your daughter, sure, like that's not going to happen. But if it's you might say, well, the doctor might know. Just never mind that. It looks kind of crazy, but say, how good can this get? And are you willing to accept a complete quantum jump into a reality where you have a complete return to health? I'm hoping that you will. And as we do this collectively, I'm pretty sure that's what we're all here on this crazy time on Earth to do, because there's so many problems right now, and many of them seem insoluble. But if we're all doing this together, we already know what can happen. We can change things just the way we're seeing the Mandela effect changing the location of the kidneys, the heart, so many things.
Changing the things you watch on television. on your computer, start putting things, good stuff in, trash out.
Right.
Things are really easy for us to take hold of. And I think, again, if we can really super saturate the airwaves with how good can it get, and people start to see it, they will tell other people. But I think one of the reasons it was so important to have you on here is because there's not enough of this information getting to the average collective. The
Right.
people that are in science, they're getting it and they're loving it. And it's like, there's some little people that need to know this too, that will help support.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. We want to keep up with it because these quantum computers are coming, and all these tech bros, or whatever they want to call them, the tech honchos, they're using this. They know about this. We do need it for everyone. It should not be a secret of the super elite. It should not be only for the leaders of the world. We all need this. And furthermore, we can do more when it's everybody doing this together. We are powerful. So we can really start seeing some very positive changes, no matter what things look like. And that's what I mean for people to understand. No matter what people tell you, no matter how expert they are, no matter what they're so confident has always been the case. Yeah. I'm laughing again because what the Mandela effect is showing us is everything can change. And that can be a very good thing. How good can it get when we know that everything can change?
Cynthia, I know that you wrote a book, Quantum Jumps. Did you have the ability to show us the book?
Yes.
You have it with you?
I do. Good. Here it is. Try not to get the reflection on the picture. Yeah, so it's an illustration right there on the cover. It kind of wraps around to the back. It's basically showing that a wormhole is the same thing as, the Einstein Rosen bridge. I know that's technical. Okay.
No. Go ahead.
It's saying, okay, the cover is indicating through art that the physics of the super large in the cosmos, that relativistic physics is one and the same as the quantum realm. We can make a quantum jump. And I've had these conversations. You might think, well, this is nutty and no real physicist would listen. Oh, yes, they do. I went to tea with a very, very famous physicist who I was so happy to see him giving a talk. And so he said, let's have tea, because he was surprised that I was mentioning his research in local talks I was giving. I said, oh, yeah, for sure. And I was apologizing that he's not in my book, Quantum Jumps. And anyway, during tea, I was pointing out that he didn't exist before. And that was like nothing to him. He's like, yeah. And I said, I was prepared to explain. I was going to apologize. Like, that's happened to me too. A lot of people say that I did not exist for them. But he was like, oh, yeah. But he's brilliant. And I'm like, oh, he gets it. Sweet.
Yeah. Well, but the thing that's so amazing to me is that we get it when it's something negative.
Right?
Right. When it's something negative, we'll all get in front of the TV and we'll turn on some news network and they'll say all this is bad. And everybody collectively will say, yes, it is. And continue it going in that direction. And we have not been taught that there's a reason why there's 1%. That 1%'s not watching. I'm going to guarantee you they are not watching the stuff. The 99% are, and they're the ones that are going down.
Yeah, this is how they do it. If you want to know what their secret is, it's this. This is what they've always known all along. They knew this. They know this. And they're accessing that DMT. They're doing the micro. I don't think you need that. But, this is, if you're wondering, what am I mentioning? Why do I say the tech guys are doing this? Because they know about it. They know to access that imagination, that their minds, their own human mind can do what the quantum computers can do. They know that.
You either have to go into the Himalayas for 100 years or you need to take some DMT. Okay, you guys? So don't say that Monet Swan said you need to take the DMT, because I'm not going to get in trouble. All I'm saying is there are ways to get a different level of consciousness.
Right.
So, Cynthia, all of this, is that the reason why you're the founder of the International Mandela Effect Conference? Is that why you created it?
Yeah, myself and 3 others. I want to give credit here because Jerry the Dark Wolf Hicks, he really started it. He's the father of the International Mandela Effect Conference, which is also a community, IMEC. It really stands for bringing people together once a month with a live stream. We're doing that next week on Wednesday.
We want to come.
Yay! Oh, please join us. And so then you'll get to see Christopher Anatra, the quantum businessman. He's got a channel on YouTube.
Okay.
And also Shane Robinson of the channel Unbiased and On the Fence. And so the 4 of us together from 4 parts of the United States came together originally in Sun Valley, Idaho, back in 2019. And that was our first gathering in person. And
Okay.
subsequently, then of course, the whole, the excitements of 2020 began, and we went to online conferencing. But we've continued that. We've got both. We do the monthly live streams. We'll have one next week, starting at what time does it start? 2:00 Eastern. So
Okay.
that's the 29th of January, 2:00 Eastern. Go to YouTube and look for International Mandela Effect Conference channel, and you can join in the fun in the chat. You get any questions and comments you put in there. If they're really thoughtful, we'll put them right on the screen and talk about them. And it's
That's the
fun.
easiest way to become part of the 1%, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, please join. We'd love to have you. And then we're voting now. Where is the conference going to be this year in 2025? We're looking at places like Sedona, Arizona, Austin, Texas, Mount Shasta, California. These are the ones that people are voting for a lot. And there are a bunch of other
Don't come
choices.
to Southern California right now where I am. Don't come here.
Not right now.
Not right now.
We'll wait till it rebuilds and gets better than ever. How good can it get? How good can it get?
Everybody should say that. Everybody who's listening that's in Southern California,
Yeah.
I know it's devastating. Just
How good
start
can it get?
saying it. You got to start somewhere to start create what you want.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Cynthia, if we would like to have more participant or engaged people of all ages to know more about the wonderful world of the Mandela effect, the quantum jumps, etc., what will be your recommendation?
Start just where you are. Like if people just pay attention, first of all, to the way your thoughts might be shaping reality. If you remember on it one day to ask that question, how good can it get? Pay attention to what happened that day. And then compare it to a day when you forgot to do it. Maybe you meant to do it, but like, boy, I sure didn't do it that day. What happened? Start there. Just be a little scientific about it with your own life. Pay attention, start observing. And then in the books that I write, if you're reading them, so I love to put exercises at the end of each chapter. I like to make it an adventure. So it's not just a book, but it's something that it's an activity. You can take it into your own life and have fun with it. So for the Mandela effect, once you know about this, one of my favorite examples of an exercise in that book, Mandela Effect in Its Society, is go into a grocery store. We can all do that.
Okay.
And then pay attention to what items look different than what you might remember. Grocery stores are full of them. We mentioned the Haas avocado. Boy, it's just like so many packaged goods, like Febreze has a different spelling.
Yes.
Kit Kat, it looks different. Coca-Cola looks different. There's just so many things in there. And so once you start noticing that, it's mind-blowing. And then it's fun too, but it's a way to sort of to go on an expedition. And just like if you're going to Africa and you're doing a safari, you can do a Mandela effect safari just through life, through the world, and just notice what things are changing. Start trusting your own memory, whether you're very young or very old. So this is true for everybody. All ages can do this. And because this experience is for all of us. It's not only certain people. It's really meant for each and every one of us to notice it and to interact, to start recognizing the questions we have that we're asking are providing us with a tremendous amount of information and sometimes changing reality quite literally.
Well, Cynthia, I want you to say something that you want our audience to take with them starting today for a different tomorrow. How would you like to close this out? What would you want the audience to know?
Yeah, it's about imagination. It's about today I said that the best thing we can all do for our own health and well-being is to change our internal bias about the elderly. Like, how do we hold that? So I've already mentioned that one. Now, let's change our bias about the world or about government, or just pick something that seems like, whoa, that's a big one. But we're going to do it together. We're all in this together. So we're going to pick something like we're going to bring how good can it get to, we all live in the world. So we can say the world. How good can it get for the world going forward? Given that I know. And our minds are just buzzing with like, but Cynthia, what about, I know. I know.
That's why we're saying it.
That's why we're saying it. Exactly. So it looks crazy. It looks like people are arguing. They don't agree. They're insane. They're not listening. Yeah. How good can it get? They're stressed. They're frightened. They're angry. They're sad. How good can it get when we transcend all that drama? How good can it get for humanity when we collectively choose we're not going to do that drama anymore? We're going to suddenly rise above it just by recognizing we can do that. We can do this for ourselves. How just the bias of the elderly, like they're awesome, they're smart, they're connected, they're loving, they're vibrant, they're so engaged, they're so deep, they're so beautiful. Yeah. And when we envision the world for all of us, how good can that get? Wow, this can be amazing. This can be so beautiful. We can be such a part of nature, appreciating the intrinsic energetic connections we have with the cosmos, with each other, and feel like we really want to be here because life is the best gift we could ever have.
Start with yourself and then expand. Cynthia Sue Larson, we love you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
What you are doing should be duplicated throughout the world because we know that it starts with us and it starts with information. And if we follow it, we can find out how good it can get. So we love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
We're going to have you come back.
Good.
Go to the next stage, right? We just kind of made the foundation, but we're going to have you come back and we're going to talk about all the wonderful things that we've accomplished by trying. How good can it get?
Woohoo! Love you
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Cynthia.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you both.
Our pleasure.
See you next time on Secure 65. Have a good day, guys, and find out how good can it get. Ned, take us out.
In light of the recent devastating fires in Southern California, we remain committed to supporting those affected. We want to take a moment to introduce our nonprofit organization and the vital assistance we provide to help individuals and families rebuild their lives. Collaborative Expansion Foundation, bringing people to truth through love and knowledge. We are a nonprofit organization. At Collaborative Expansion Foundation, we empower seniors by addressing their critical needs and fostering trusted relationships. We combat loneliness, financial insecurity, and access issues through education, community engagement, and support. Guided by our motto, no senior should enroll in Medicare with a stranger, we strive to ensure all seniors receive the care they deserve. Together, we create a caring, inclusive community.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay.
In light of the recent devastating fires in Southern California, we remain committed to supporting those affected. We want to take a moment to introduce our nonprofit organization and the vital assistance we provide to help individuals and families rebuild their lives. Collaborative Expansion Foundation, bringing people to truth through love and knowledge. We are a nonprofit organization. At Collaborative Expansion Foundation, we empower seniors by addressing their critical needs and fostering trusted relationships. We combat loneliness, financial insecurity, and access issues through education, community engagement, and support. Guided by our motto, no senior should enroll in Medicare with a stranger, we strive to ensure all seniors receive the care they deserve. Together, we create a caring, inclusive community.